Hey there, welcome back to Online Marketing Foundations. We're still in Module 3, Connect with Your Audience. Now, in the last lesson, we talked about creating your core content, that long-form content that you're putting out every week. Now, in this lesson, Lesson 5, we're talking about creating your core social media. This is kind of the add-on piece. This is what you need to be thinking about as the next level of connecting with your audience. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about kind of how you need to approach social media, how you need to be thinking about it, and how to pick where you're actually going to be on social. So let's dive in, and we're going to start with a truth bomb, which is that if you think of social media as a way to blast out your message, you're doing it wrong. Social media is not another form of content creation. It is not a way to yell at people and to simply talk at people. Social media is a way to have a conversation with people. And that is a fundamental distinction that you need to understand if you want social media to work for you and to be effective. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about how you need to use social media to actually be social, not simply to check off a box, and how you should pick one social media site and focus your attention there. Now let's start with how to use social media the right way. And I'm going to start with this kind of, sorry, not sorry moment. If you want social media to actually work to build your business, you have to actually be social. It's in the name. I mean, seriously, you have to think of this as a way to socialize. Most entrepreneurs make the mistake of using social media as a megaphone, but that's just a great way to be ignored because literally it's like you're talking at people. And people can feel that you're talking at them. And you know what? You're not going to get engagement. You're not going to get reach. People aren't going to respond, and it's not going to do you any good. So don't think of social as a megaphone. You have to think of it as a way to be social. And this leads me to a warning because you have to be careful. A lot of people give the advice that you should be a producer on social media, not a consumer. And this is something that a lot of, kind of thought leaders are talking about how, hey, when you get onto social media, you need to have a mission. It's not about consuming. It's not about scrolling the feed. It's literally, you're just going to do this. You're going to get in and you're going to get out. And I'll also hear people who are thought leaders who say like, hey, they've stopped using social or they just have their team do it. And, that's fine. But what I want to be clear about is that if you want social media to actually work for you, you can't be that tactical. You can't say, I'm simply going to produce content and not consume content. Because if you do, you're thinking of it as a megaphone. And again, look, I'll be honest, once you get to be huge, you can do that. Once you get to the point that everybody loves you and everybody's like hanging off everything you say and they've put you on a pedestal and it's to the point of kind of they're worshiping your ideas, yes, that can kind of work for people because, people will do that. But what I'm going to tell you is that is not a way to build a business. That's something that you can do once you have a following, once you have all of those things, and then you can do that and people will listen just because they want to hear what you have to say. But I want you to understand that approach is not a way to actually build a following and much less to connect with your people, which is where social media really shines. Social media is most useful really as a way to build deep connections with your people so that they have a sense of who you are, so that they get to really know you and like you and really say, this is someone I want to do business with. But that requires you to show up, to post, to consume, and engage with people. It requires you to be willing to do the work of being social. Again, it's in the freaking name. If you're not willing to be social, then social media isn't going to work for you. And again, I've seen this over and over again in my business, but everyone else has too. You've got to treat it the right way. You've got to respect the platform for what it is. And kind of part of what this means, like a warning here, you can't post and ghost. In other words, a lot of people will just go post and then they're out and that's it. And maybe they come back the next day. You can't do that. I mean, let me be clear. You can, but that's not going to be effective. When you post, you need to see if people respond. And if so, you need to respond to them. If people comment on your post, reply to them. Now, part of that is because that actual engagement builds a connection, but it's also because people will be more likely to actually engage the next time because they've seen, hey, when I comment on one of their things, they respond. And it kind of builds this like virtuous cycle, this virtuous loop of people engage, you engage more, and it deepens the connection, etc. So that's what you've got to do if you want social media to work. Now, the actual thing you post, the stuff you're talking about, obviously has to be engaging to start with, but then you've got to do this work of building the engagement. Now, first of all, I'll tell you, like, I'm not an expert on the algorithms, but the algorithms like engagement, so that'll help. But it's also about like just human to human. People like it when you engage with them. And so they'll do more of it if you engage with them in response. So again, that's kind of the point I want to get across to you here with this warning. But kind of ultimately, the thing that I want you to see is that posting just to check off the social media box won't do anything. If you're just saying, well, someone says I have to do social, so I'm going to go post it. I'm going to post 5 times a week because that's what someone said and blah, blah, blah. That's not going to work. If you're going to use social media as a tool, you have to commit to using it the right way. And that means you have to commit to treat it as it is meant to be treated, as a social platform, as a place where you are socializing, as a place where you're engaging with people, as a place where you're connecting with people. That's what social media is for. And if you don't want to use it for that, just understand it's not going to actually do you a lot of good. So if you're going to use it as part of your strategy, that has to be how you think of it, as a way to connect with people on a deep level. So that's how to use it right. Now let's talk about where to be. And the thing I want you to be is understand is don't try to be everywhere. We've all heard this, like, we'll see people who have these like freebies about how to, take one piece of content and repurpose it 32 different places. And so it leads us to think that that's what we need to do. Well, if we create a piece of content, we need to post it on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and TikTok and LinkedIn. And we need to put it into a podcast and we need to make it into a blog and we need to put it on YouTube and we need to. And so we just start thinking that's what we're supposed to be doing. It's not. Again, doing all that stuff isn't going to help because, again, that is a megaphone way of thinking. When you think about social and say, oh, I got to be social, I've got to actually socialize, that leads to this piece of advice. Like your core content, pick one platform and show up consistently. So instead of basically saying, okay, well, I'm going to spend 5 minutes on Facebook, 5 minutes on Instagram, 5 minutes on LinkedIn, 5 minutes on TikTok, 5 minutes on Twitter, 5 minutes on Pinterest, 5 minutes on YouTube, 5 minutes, just say, you know what? I'm going to spend 30 minutes on Facebook today. I'm going to commit to that one place and be there because that way I can actually do the social stuff. Or maybe it's Instagram for you. I don't care where it is. I can tell you that I built my business on the back of Facebook. When I was starting out, I didn't have an Instagram account and I really didn't do anything with it. I had a LinkedIn account, but it had nothing to do with my business. I had a Twitter account. It had nothing to do with my business. None of that stuff has anything to do with it. I chose Facebook and I was consistent there and I put in the time. That's where you're going to get more effectiveness when you pick that one place and show up there consistently. So how do you do it? Well, you pick a platform that suits your personal style, your personality, and where your audience hangs out. And what I mean by personal style, I'm not someone who's into dancing and doing funny stuff like that, so TikTok's probably not for me. I'm more of a community person, wanting to build community and actually have those things. So for me, that means Facebook. But a lot of people love Instagram. I don't really care what fits your style. Pick something that fits your style. And as long as your audience or potential audience hangs out there, focus on that place. And focus on that one and that one only. Now, you can expand to a second platform and then beyond that if and only if you're able to show up both places consistently. And it helps if you have a team because they can help you with some of this, etc. But make that commitment that you're only really going to expand when you're able to be both places consistently. And here's a quick tip. A lot of people call YouTube and Pinterest social media. That would be the first thing. They're not really social media in a traditional sense, but since people put them there, what I'm going to say is this. Pick one of those as your second platform after whatever your primary platform is. So it's Facebook and then YouTube, or Facebook and Pinterest, or something like that. And the reason why is because YouTube and Pinterest are search engines which will help new people discover you. So they'll help you discover you, and then they're in your world and you can connect with them. So that's a quick tip on how to pick a secondary platform, which again, they're not really social media, but most people think of them as social media sites. And so I'm going to say those two, one of them should probably be the second place that you show up because of the searchability and people finding you. So the key lesson here, social media does nothing for you unless you show up as you and engage with your people. You got to be social. So design your social media strategy. Everything you're doing about social should be designed around that central idea. So pick one social media channel and use it to truly connect with your people. That's it for this lesson. In the next lesson, you'll learn about how to use email marketing to connect with your people. Now, I'm a guy who really likes email marketing. It's kind of one of my things. So we're going to be talking about how to use that effectively and how to think about email in the next lesson. I'll see you there.